Hey y'all, this is Brown at I Have Brown, and I wanted to talk a little bit about a song called One of Our Submarines by the musician Thomas Dolby. So Thomas Dolby is arguably best known for having done the song She Blinded Me With Science, but I would say that he has a lot more of an influence than people tend to give him credit for. Especially within the field of, say, music in general, because he had a lot to do with pioneering synthesizers and what programming and what have you. But he put out, I'm pretty sure it was his first album. It was called The Golden Age of Wireless, and if you're into, say, synthesizer-based music, I mean, that's an amazing album. You have Europa and the Pirate Twins, Flying North, Radio Silence, and of course You Blinded Me With Science. But One of Our Submarines is another song that was also on there. And the first time I heard about this song, it was when I was watching a little bit of a documentary on Thomas Dolby, or I should say a segment on Thomas Dolby by this guy on YouTube called Todd in the Shadows, and he was doing this program called One Hit Wonderland, where he was taking a look at artists who had one big hit, but then afterwards their careers maybe fizzled out, or maybe they were able to maintain a career, but it never quite reached that same high that their one hit big hit had. And so She Blinded Me With Science was Thomas Dolby's biggest hit. And so but he was talking about how the follow-up song, One of Our Submarines, was something that, it's considered one of his classic songs, but at the same time it didn't have the same impact, or it didn't have quite as much of an impact as She Blinded Me With Science did. And so if you get a chance, definitely check that out. I think it's Todd in the Shadows or One Hit Wonderland, Thomas Dolby. Very fascinating, to learn about this, the music scene back then, but also just Thomas Dolby's impact on it in general, or just music in general, really. But because you listen to if you listen to the song One of Our Submarines, the instrumentals are kind of upbeat, definitely catchy. You can definitely dance to it. Great instrumentals, synthesizer based score. But you listen to the lyrics though, and it is not a happy song. In fact, I would argue that it's one of the songs that depicts the horrors of war, except in this case, from the perspective of a doomed submarine crew, during World War II. And you listen to that song, and you listen to the lyrics, and it really is telling the story of a crew of sailors on a submarine that they're in a no-win situation, and basically they're cut off from command. They can't go home because the submarine's been damaged, and basically they've been reduced to drinking heavy water, which I believe was used to cool parts of the submarine, I think. It had something to do with their fuel, I think. So the situation's bad when you're actually having to drink from stuff like that, because that stuff's dangerous, But anyway, though, it's a very sad story, and it's like you're on one hand, the first time you listen to it, you're kind of like, oh hey, this is a fun song and all that, because of the awesome instrumentals. But then it's like you listen to the lyrics though, and you kind of come away with this sort of humbled feeling, almost, in the sense that that stuff like that happens during wartime, whether it's a submarine crew, or just people who are on a mission, and something goes wrong and they're cut off from rescue, or what have you. And I would say that I would kind of put it in a similar category as the Motorhead song 1916. Now that song is devastating and it's heartbreaking, and you have to like be sitting down to listen to that song. And I mean, it tells just how bad one battle was. Like 10,000 people slain, and the day not half over. That kind of thing. And so it's like, there's a reason World War I was called the war to end all wars, So, and no, I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because, as horrifying as that, I mean, it was so horrifying, if you read about stuff like that, the type of, destruction and, lives, and all the lives that were lost, during, that time period, World War I, it's like, I mean, it's just so insane that, it's either, you're crying on the inside or laughing on the outside. And so, you listen to that song, and then you listen to something like, One of Our Submarines, where, you have that sort of 1-2 approach of, on one hand, it sounds fun, but then you actually listen to the story, and it's like, this is not fun, my God, and so, I don't remember for sure if One of Our Submarines was based specifically on a true story. I want to say that there was kind of a inspiration, in a sense that Thomas Dolby unfortunately lost a family member during World War II, or who served in World War II on a submarine, I think. I don't quote me on that, but I think there might have been inspiration in that regard. But also, though, I mean, just considering the fact that this was World War II, and there was a submarine warfare was a thing, regardless of what side, the submarine crew was on, if they got into a situation like that, it's one of those things where it's like, you can't take any joy from it. I mean, even say like an enemy ship, you can't, take joy from someone being in that situation. And I mean, it's horrible, and so it just, I don't know, just for some reason I was kind of thinking about that today, about that song specifically, because a lot of Thomas Dolby's songs, at least the ones from that era, especially on Golden Age of Wireless, they tend to be more, fun and, upbeat and soaring in terms of like on an emotional level, like optimistic, I would say. But then you hear One of Our Submarines, and I mean, in terms of instrumental score, I mean, in terms of the instrumentals, it definitely sounds, like it belongs in the same camp as the rest of the songs on the album. But then you hear the story that it's telling, and it's just, I mean, there's a reason that, it manages to stand out, so, or there are a couple of reasons it manages to stand out, but I mean, mainly though, it's just, the fact that it does such a good job of telling a story of the tragedy and horror of war from the perspective of a doomed submarine crew, but yeah, I don't know, I think I may have heard some songs that recently that sounded like that, and it kind of jogged my memory. And then I remembered having watched that, segment from Todd in the Shadows, and, he was talking about, the contrast between, the majority of songs on Golden Age of Wireless, and then you listen to One of Our Submarines, you're like, this is dark. So I mean, yeah, I thought about it, and yeah, it's true. I mean, I think it would have been cool if Thomas Dolby, I don't know if he ever did stuff similar to that, because I think Golden Age of Wireless was the only album of his I listened to, so I don't know if he did any similar types of songs where maybe a similar 1-2 approach, like maybe it sounded, uplifting and catchy, but it was not an upbeat song, that kind of thing. So, I mean, if anyone knows whether he did some other songs of a similar ilk, I mean, I would love to know, just, drop a line, let me know, please. I always find stuff like this fascinating, whether in terms of, say, I guess from a musical history standpoint, or just history in general, But yeah, those were my thoughts on it. One of Our Submarines by Thomas Dolby. Give it a listen if you haven't heard it before. And also do yourself a favor and check out the album Golden Age of Wireless. I mean, you can find it online or just listen to it on YouTube or whatever streaming service you got. So but yeah, that's it. Thanks for taking the time to drop by and listen. You all have a good day. Be careful in this killer heat, please. All right, bye.